After our family dinner at the hotel, I realized I'd left my purse on the table. A careless mistake, or at least I thought so. When I returned to retrieve it, the young waitress who had served us pulled me into the storage room and locked the door. "I need to show you something," she said. Then she pressed play on the monitor. What my son did in that video made my knees buckle. "Thank you so much for being here with me. It truly means more than you know. Before we continue, take a moment to leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this story travels and who it resonates with." And just a quick note, this story includes some fictionalized elements added for storytelling and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real names or situations is purely coincidental, but the message is meant to offer something meaningful. The Beverly Hills Hotel's Polo Lounge had always been my favorite. Pink stucco walls, palm trees, casting shadows through floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of old Hollywood elegance that reminded you why luxury mattered. Tonight it felt like a trap. Derek had suggested dinner to discuss the future of Whitmore Luxe. His words delivered with that earnest smile I'd once found so reassuring. Amber sat beside him in cream Chanel manicured nails, drumming the tablecloth in a rhythm that set my teeth on edge. "Mom, you look tired," Derek said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. I pulled away reflexively. My hands had been numb for weeks, tingling, unresponsive, like they belonged to someone else. Tonight was worse. When I'd tried to feel the silk napkin in my lap, there was nothing, just absence. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said. Amber's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Evelyn, we're worried about you. You're 68. Running a company this size, it's a lot of stress. I've been running it for 50 years. "Exactly," Derek said gently. "Maybe it's time to let someone younger take over, someone who can handle the pressure." The waiter arrived with wine. Derek poured for all of us, his movements smooth and practiced. I lifted my glass, couldn't feel the stem between my fingers, couldn't taste the vintage when I sipped. "We've prepared some documents," Amber said, pulling a leather folder from her bag. "Power of attorney. Just temporary until you're feeling better. It would give Derek authority to make decisions if you're incapacitated." My stomach turned. "I'm not signing anything tonight." Derek's jaw tightened. "Mom, we're trying to help you. Your hands are shaking. You spilled water twice during dinner. The board is starting to notice." I said no. Silence settled over the table like frost. Across the room, I caught the eye of David Sullivan, head of Whitmore Luxe Security. He'd been with the company for 20 years, ever since I'd quietly paid for his daughter's college applications when his medical bills nearly bankrupted him. He watched our table with an expression I couldn't quite read. Derek paid the bill, kissed my cheek. "We'll talk about this later, Mom, when you're feeling more clear-headed." They left first, citing an early meeting. I gathered my coat and stood to leave. That's when I realized my purse wasn't on my chair. I must have set it down by the wine bottles during dinner. By the time I returned to the dining room, it was nearly empty. A busboy was clearing our table. My black leather purse sat exactly where I'd left it, tucked beside the floral arrangement. I reached for it and a hand caught my wrist. Lily Foster, the young waitress who'd served us all evening, stood there. She couldn't have been more than 25, dark hair, pulled back eyes wide with something that looked like fear. "Mrs. Whitmore," she whispered. "Please come with me, quickly. I'm just getting my—" "I know." She glanced over her shoulder. "But you need to see something first." She pulled me toward a door marked staff only. My heart hammered. This was absurd. I should leave, call security. But something in her expression stopped me. She led me into a storage room lined with wine racks and cleaning supplies. A security monitor glowed in the corner split screen showing various angles of the restaurant. Lily's hands shook as she rewound the footage. I saw this while I was checking the cameras for a lost credit card. I almost didn't, but if it were my mother, I'd want someone to tell me. She pressed play. The screen showed our table, Derek and Amber leaning close, me walking toward the restroom. And then Derek reached into his jacket, pulled out a small vial, looked around, and poured something into my wine glass. I watched my son reach into his jacket pocket. I couldn't have screamed if I'd wanted to. My throat had closed breath shallow as Lily turned the screen toward me. "Just watch," she whispered. "Please." The monitor showed our table from dinner, black and white footage from above. I watched myself stand and walk toward the restroom, unsteady on my feet. Derek and Amber remained at the table. Then Derek's head snapped around. Quick, sharp, scanning the restaurant like a predator checking for witnesses. The transformation was instant. The concerned son vanished. His shoulders relaxed. His face hardened into something cold. Amber leaned closer, her hand on his arm, smiling. Not the sweet smile from dinner. This was hungry. Derek reached into his jacket and pulled out a small glass vial. Clinical, precise. The kind we used in Whitmore Lux's laboratory. My heart stopped. Now! Amber's voice came through the audio, tinny but clear. While she's in the restroom, quick! Derek uncapped the vial with practiced ease. His movements were smooth, confident. He poured clear liquid into my wine glass, the same glass I'd drunk from when I returned. Lily's hand steadied me. My knees had gone weak. Keep watching, she whispered. Derek recapped the vial and slipped it back into his jacket. Then he picked up his own wine casual as if nothing had happened. Amber laughed. Then Derek hunched his shoulders, let his hands tremble in exaggerated mockery. His head wobbled. He was imitating me. Amber threw her head back, overcome with amusement at her husband's cruel pantomime. The audio picked up fragments. Another week and she'll be completely helpless. Derek's voice, cold. Can't even hold a pen. Then she'll have to sign. Amber's reply was quieter. The old fool thinks it's age. They both laughed. I watched myself return on screen, sat down unaware, picked up the wine glass and drank. Derek's face showed satisfaction. Just for a second. Then he slipped the mask back on, asking if I was all right. The footage continued. False concern. Fake warmth. Me drinking from the glass, destroying everything I was. The screen went dark. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred, not from numbness, but from tears I couldn't stop. A sound came out of me. Half sob, half wail. I pressed my hands over my mouth, but it burst through anyway. My son, my only child. He was destroying me. Slowly, methodically, with something from my own laboratory. My legs gave out. I sank to my knees on cold linoleum, gasping between sobs. 30 years building Whitmore Lux. 30 years of sacrifice to leave him something magnificent. And he was ending me to take it faster. Mrs. Whitmore. Lily knelt beside me. I'm so sorry. I didn't know if I should show you, but I couldn't. You did the right thing. I forced the words out. Thank you. It took minutes to rebuild myself, to force the tears to stop, to stand on steady legs. I pulled out my wallet, every bill inside, several $100s. I pressed it into Lily's hands. You saved my life, I said quietly. This isn't payment, it's gratitude. But I need you to forget this. The video me tonight. You saw nothing. Lily looked at the money, then at me. Something shifted in her eyes. I never saw you here, she said firmly. The footage will corrupt overnight. Hard drive failure. Thank you, Lily Foster. What are you going to do? I looked at the blank monitor, at the space where my son's betrayal had played out. I don't know yet, I said, but he won't see it coming. I walked out on steady legs, through the empty restaurant, past David Sullivan at the entrance, who nodded as I passed, out into the Los Angeles night. I drove home on autopilot, Sunset to Pacific Coast Highway. The ocean appeared on my right, dark and endless. By the time I pulled into my Malibu driveway, something had changed inside me. The tears had stopped. In their place burned something colder, harder. Rage crystallized into purpose. My son wanted to destroy me. He just made the worst mistake of his life. My lab had always been sanctuary. Tonight it became war room. I arrived at 4:30 a.m., still wearing the clothes from the restaurant Derek's concerned son performance, replaying in my mind like a nightmare on loop. The Malibu house was silent except for the ocean's rhythm beyond the windows. I locked the lab door behind me. This room had been designed to support me even as age crept in, voice-activated systems, automated equipment, fail-safes for the days when arthritis or tremors might slow my hands. Tonight, those precautions became my salvation. My hands were still numb, clumsy, unreliable. I couldn't trust them for delicate work, but my mind, crystal, clear. And that was all I needed. I pulled the silk napkin from my purse, the one from dinner wine-stained where Derek had accidentally knocked over my glass while I was in the restroom. The fabric still smelled faintly of the Bordeaux he'd poured. "System activate," I said aloud. "Sample analysis protocol alpha." The lab's central computer hummed to life screens illuminating in cool blue. I placed the napkin into the automated sample tray, securing it with clips I could manage even with numb fingers. The robotic arm descended with mechanical precision, cutting a precise square from the stained area, transferring it to the extraction chamber. "Begin solvent extraction," I commanded, methanol-based standard lipid protocol. The machine complied. I watched through the viewing port as the fabric sample was submerged, agitated the wine residue dissolving into solution. No pipettes, no manual transfers, no room for error caused by trembling hands. The centrifuge activated, automatically separating compounds by density. Then the chromatography system my pride installed 3 years ago, when I'd first noticed my hands weren't as steady as they'd been, drew the sample into its analysis chamber. I made coffee while the machines worked, sat at my desk, waited. The analysis took 90 minutes. When the results appeared on screen, my blood went cold. Compound identified Series S, 45 dermal sensitivity agent. I pulled up the molecular structure, cross-referenced it against every database I had access to. The compound was uncommon, used industrially to test protective equipment, occasionally in research settings to study nerve response. Never ever in food or cosmetics. The mechanism was elegant and cruel. The agent blocked nerve endings in skin tissue, specifically the receptors responsible for touch pressure and temperature. Not permanently. The effects were reversible with full recovery, expected within 48 hours of cessation. 48 hours. I looked at my hands, still numb, still foreign. But now I knew why, and I knew they'd come back. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the vitamin bottle Derek had given me 30 days ago. "Immune support," he'd said, kissing my cheek every morning as he handed me the daily dose with breakfast. I cracked the bottle open and dumped the remaining pills onto a sterile tray. The capsules looked normal, white, unmarked, professional. But when I carefully separated one, pulling the gelatin casing apart, I found a logo printed on the inner powder, a small bee with a leaf design. Beauty Fast Incorporated, Victoria Brennan's company. I placed one pill under the digital microscope, increased magnification, and ran a spectral analysis. Positive match. The same S45 agent compressed into powder form mixed with harmless vitamin C to mask the taste. 30 pills in the bottle, 30 days, 30 doses. Derek had been poisoning me systematically, one breakfast at a time, waiting for my hands to fail completely before presenting his power of attorney documents. And tonight's wine, that was the booster and extra dose to accelerate my decline before tomorrow's meeting. I stood, walked to the sink, and methodically destroyed every remaining pill, every piece of evidence that might contaminate my home. Then I dumped every open food container, every beverage, every item Derek or Amber might have touched. 48 hours, that's all I needed. 48 hours for the agent to flush from my system, for my body to remember how to feel. My phone showed 6:47 a.m. If I'd stopped ingesting the agent after last night's dinner, if I refused, the vitamin Derek would surely bring this morning, I'd be fully recovered by Thursday morning. But I couldn't let them know that. I picked up my phone and dialed Charles Donovan. He answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep. "Evelyn, what's wrong?" "Derek is trying to kill me," I said. "I need you to help me stop him first." Charles Donovan didn't just supply rare botanicals to Whitmore Lux for 40 years. He'd been at my side through Industry War's hostile takeover attempts and the death of my husband. When I called him at 2 a.m. with a tremor in my voice, he didn't ask questions. He just came. By 6 a.m., we sat across from each other in my Malibu kitchen sunrise, bleeding gold across the Pacific. I'd shown him everything, the chromatography results, the vitamin bottle with Beauty Fast's logo hidden beneath Derek's fake label, the timeline stretching back 30 days. Charles's face had gone stone still, then his fist slammed the granite countertop. "I'll end him," he said, voice flat and cold. "Tonight, one call, he'll disappear, and no one will ever—" "No." He stared at me. "We dismantle him legally," I said. My hand still trembled on the table, the dermal agent lingering in my nerve endings. Through the law, through evidence, through the system, he thinks he's gaming. Charles studied me for a long moment. Then something like respect flickered in his eyes. "You have a plan." "I'm going to play weak," I said. "Let him think he's winning. Let him get comfortable. And while he celebrates, we gather everything we need to bury him." Dangerous, Charles warned. So is letting my son poison me for 30 days. My voice came out harder than I'd intended. "He wants me helpless, fine. I'll give him helpless, but only until Wednesday afternoon." Charles nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Information. Derek didn't source that agent alone. He's working with someone. Beauty Fast Incorporated, that's not just branding coincidence. I need to know who's behind them, what they want, and whether they've done this before. I'll start digging." He stood, then paused. "Evelyn, you're sure you can pull this off, faking weakness when you're this angry?" I looked down at my shaking hands. 48 hours, the chromatography had promised. 48 hours until the agent flushed from my system and I could feel silk again. Until I could grip a pen without it slipping. Until I could trust my body to match my mind. But my mind crystal clear, and that was all I needed. "I've spent 50 years making people believe in beauty," I said quietly. "This is just another performance." At 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, I called my son. I let my voice crack on the second ring. Let it waver, fragile and thin, the way 72 sounds when hope is running out. "Derek, sweetheart, I've been thinking." "Mom." He sounded alert, eager. "Are you okay?" I forced a tremor into the words. "I'm tired, honey. So tired, and my hands..." I let the sentence trail off. "Maybe you were right. Maybe I'm too old for this. Maybe it's time to let someone else take care of things." Silence on his end. I could almost hear him smiling. "I'll sign the power of attorney," I whispered. "But I need 24 hours to say goodbye to everything I built, to come to terms with it. Can we meet Wednesday, 2 o'clock? "Of course," Derek said, and his voice was warm, solicitous, the loving son I'd raised. "Take all the time you need, Mom. I'll come to Malibu. We'll make this easy for you." "Thank you, sweetheart." I let my voice crack one more time. "You're such a good son." When I hung up, Charles was watching me from the doorway. "You're terrifying," he said. "Good." I set the phone down. My hands were still numb nerve endings, still firing wrong signals. But they'd hold. "Now tell me about Beauty Fast." Charles opened his laptop and his face went grim. "Evelyn, Victoria Brennan, their CEO. I've been running her history through industry contacts." He turned the screen toward me. 2 luxury cosmetic brands in the last 5 years. Both founders had sudden health crises. Both sold their companies for pennies. One of those founders died 6 months later. My blood went cold. "Evelyn," Charles said quietly. "Victoria Brennan. She's done this before." The screen displayed 2 obituaries, 2 revoked business licenses, 2 lives destroyed. One name connected them all, Victoria Brennan. Charles had worked through the night. By Tuesday afternoon, his dining table looked like a war room printouts, legal filings industry reports fanned across the surface. He pointed to the first document, his finger trembling slightly. "Bella Essenza," he said. 2019. Catherine Sinclair built it over 30 years. Premium anti-aging serums cult following valued at $90 million. I leaned forward, reading the timeline he'd assembled. "She started showing symptoms in January that year," Charles continued. "Tremors in her hands. Loss of fine motor control. By March, she couldn't formulate anymore. Her doctor diagnosed it as early-onset Parkinson's." My chest tightened. "She sold the company in April for $8 million, Charles said quietly, "to Beauty Fast Incorporated. Victoria Brennan personally oversaw the acquisition." He slid another document across the table. "Catherine Sinclair died 6 months later. Heart attack officially. But her daughter told industry contacts that her mother's tremors had mysteriously stopped 2 weeks before she died." The implication hung in the air between us. "And the second?" I asked, though I already knew the answer would be worse. "Lumiere Naturelle, 2021. Founded by George Whitman, 62 years old. Same pattern." Charles pulled up a Business Journal article. Sudden health decline, cognitive issues, memory loss, confusion. His daughter convinced him to sell before he became incompetent. $120 million company went to beauty fast for $15 million. Let me guess, I said. His symptoms improved after the sale. Within weeks. Charles met my eyes. George is still alive, Evelyn, living in a care facility in Connecticut, but his daughter swears he's sharper now than he was during the sale. She's been trying to challenge it legally for 2 years. I sat back the pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. Same playbook, I whispered. Slow poisoning to mimic age-related decline. Pressure the founder to sell while they're vulnerable. Acquire a premium brand for pennies on the dollar. Then let the agent clear their system too late to reverse the legal damage. You're victim number 3, Charles said. And Evelyn Beauty Fast's been aggressively courting 2 other luxury cosmetic founders in the past 6 months. If we don't stop Victoria now, there'll be a 4th. The words came out cold. And a 5th. This wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't even just about Derek's betrayal or Amber's cruelty. This was about a woman who'd built an empire by systematically destroying other women's legacies, who'd perfected the art of theft disguised as compassion. Catherine Sinclair had died believing her body had failed her. George Whitman lived in a fog of shame thinking his mind had betrayed him. And I'd almost become another name on Victoria Brennan's victim list. I need to call Jonathan, I said, reaching for my phone. Jonathan Pierce had been Whitmore Lux's attorney for 15 years, sharp, meticulous, and ruthless in court. When I outlined what Charles had found, he went silent for a long moment. Evelyn, he said carefully, if we're building a case against all 3 of them, Derek, Amber, and Victoria, I need ironclad evidence, not just pattern recognition. You'll have it, I promised. But Jonathan, I need you to do something else. Contact Catherine Sinclair's daughter and George Whitman's family. If Victoria's done this before, their testimony could be crucial. I'll reach out today, Jonathan said. But Evelyn, be careful. If Victoria realizes you're investigating, she won't. I glanced at my hands, still numb, still trembling slightly. Because as far as anyone knows, I'm a tired old woman about to sign her life away. Then let's make sure we're ready when you don't, Jonathan said. When I hung up, Charles was watching me with something between admiration and concern. You're building a case that could take months, he said. Derek expects you to sign on Wednesday. Then Wednesday I'll give him a show he'll never forget. The doorbell rang. Charles and I exchanged a glance. It was 7 p.m., too late for deliveries, too early for the security patrol. Through the window, I saw Derek's Mercedes in my driveway, and beside him, Amber carrying a leather portfolio. They'd brought the contracts early. Showtime, I whispered. I played my part perfectly. Shoulders slumped more than necessary, eyes slightly unfocused, but inside a coiled spring ready to snap. Wednesday, 2 o'clock, nearly 40 hours since my last dose of Derek's vitamins. 40 hours since the dermal agent had begun its slow exit from my system. This morning I'd woken to a strange sensation, tiny electric pulses at my fingertips, like static shocks as nerve endings flickered back to life. I could feel again, not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough to know I was winning. But Derek and Amber couldn't know that. They arrived precisely on time, Amber in a cream Chanel suit that probably cost more than my housekeeper's yearly salary, Derek in the navy blazer I'd bought him for his 35th birthday. They looked polished professional, like dutiful children helping an aging mother through a difficult transition. Mom! Derek kissed my cheek and I forced myself not to recoil. You look tired. Are you feeling all right? I let my voice waver. Just ready to get this over with, sweetheart. He set a stack of documents on the dining table, power of attorney forms, transfer agreements, board resolutions. Everything needed to hand him Whitmore Lux on a silver platter. Sign here, Mom, he said gently, pointing to the first flagged page. Then you can rest. No more stress, no more pressure. Amber and I will take care of everything. I picked up the pen, forcing my hand to tremble. The sensation was there now. I could feel the pen's weight, the smooth metal, but I made my fingers shake. Anyway, made the tremor visible, exaggerated. Let them see weakness. Let them think I was still under the agent's control. I positioned the pen over the signature line. Then, as if my elbow had betrayed me, I knocked into the crystal water decanter. It tipped in slow-motion water, cascading across the mahogany table in a crystal-clear wave. The documents turned dark ink, bleeding into illegible smears. Derek's carefully prepared contracts dissolved into sodden pulp. "Mom," Derek's voice cracked with fury. "Damn it!" I let out a small, helpless sob. My hand, I can't control it anymore. "I'm so sorry, It's fine." Amber cut in, though her jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. She placed a hand on Derek's arm, a warning. "We'll just print new copies. It's not a problem." But I could see the calculation in her eyes, the frustration. They'd been so close. "No." I let my voice break. "I don't want to sign here. Not like this. I want to sign at the board meeting. Friday, in front of everyone." Derek froze. "Mom, that's not necessary." "It is to me." I met his eyes, letting mine fill with manufactured tears. "This is my legacy, Derek. 50 years of work. If I'm going to hand it over, I need it to be official, proper. So no one can ever say I was confused or incompetent." Amber and Derek exchanged a glance. A whole conversation passed between them in that look. "Actually," Amber said slowly, "that's not a bad idea. Witnesses. The board's approval on record. It would make the transition cleaner." Derek's expression shifted from anger to consideration. "Friday at 2 p.m. Yes." I dabbed at my eyes with a napkin. "I need these 2 days to say goodbye, to prepare myself." "Of course, Mom." Derek's voice turned solicitous again, the loving son. "Whatever you need. We'll see you Friday." After they left, I climbed the stairs to my bedroom window. From here, I had a clear view of the garden terrace, below the one with the wrought iron bench and the climbing jasmine. Derek always took his phone calls there. He thought the distance kept them private. He was wrong. The window cracked open just an inch, enough to catch every word. I stood in the shadows of my bedroom curtains, drawn except for that sliver of space. Below, Derek had settled onto the wrought iron bench, phone in hand. Amber perched beside him, close enough that I could see the gleam of her diamond bracelet catching the late afternoon sun. My own phone was already in my hand, recording app open. I pressed record. Derek tapped his screen, then set the phone on speaker. Victoria Brennan's voice came through crisp and clear, cutting through the garden's silence like a blade. "Did she sign?" "Friday," Derek said. "Board meeting, 2 p.m. Mom's completely broken down. She couldn't even hold a pen steady today." Amber leaned in, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Honestly, we deserve Oscars for this performance." Victoria's laugh was sharp. "Save the celebration. What about the inventory?" "Handled." Derek stretched his legs out, relaxed, confident. "Tanker trucks roll in Friday night right after the meeting. We'll dump it all, $150 million worth of premium serums as industrial waste. By Monday morning, the warehouses will be empty." My breath caught. $150 million. Every formula I'd spent 5 decades perfecting. Every rare botanical extract Charles had sourced from around the world. Every serum that had built Whitmore Luxe's reputation. Gone. "Good," Victoria said. "The faster we liquidate those assets, the better. Beauty Fast doesn't need luxury formulas. We need the brand name and the customer list. Everything else is dead weight." Amber shifted, crossing her legs. "Thank God, we need cash flow now. The Monaco Villa deposit alone is $5 million. And your husband's gambling debts," Victoria added coolly. $3.7 million, wasn't it, Derek? I felt ice spread through my chest. $3.7 million. So that was the number. That was what I was worth to my son, enough to cover his casino losses and fund an escape to Europe. Once we get the $45 million payout from Beauty Fast, Derek said, utterly unbothered, "That's pocket change." "Just make sure she signs," Victoria said. "No delays, no second thoughts. I want those transfer documents filed by Friday evening." "She'll sign," Derek promised. "She's got no fight left. You should have seen her today, spilled water all over the contracts, started crying about how her hands don't work anymore." He laughed. "She actually thinks the board meeting is her idea, like she's protecting her legacy or something." Amber giggled. Poor thing, she has no idea the board's already voted to approve the sale pending her signature. Let her have her dignity, Victoria said. As long as she signs. Derek, I'm sending the final wire transfer instructions tonight. The moment those documents are executed, BeautyFast will deposit the payment. Then you're free to disappear to Monaco, and I never have to hear about this again. Understood. And Derek. Victoria's voice turned cold. If anything goes wrong, if she changes her mind, if she talks to a lawyer, if she suddenly grows a spine, you fix it. Immediately. Do you understand me? She won't, Derek said. She's finished. This time Friday Whitmore Lux is ours. The call ended. I watched Derek slip his phone into his pocket, watched Amber loop her arm through his, watched them stroll back toward the house, laughing about something I couldn't hear. My phone was still recording. 7 minutes and 43 seconds of crystal clear audio. Every word, every confession, every piece of evidence I'd need. But evidence wouldn't save my serums if they were dumped into tanker trucks Friday night. I dialed Charles before Derek and Amber even reached the door. Charles, I said, my voice steady and cold. We have 48 hours. I need you to move every serum, every formula, every bottle in those warehouses. Tonight, before they can destroy them. Where? Charles asked immediately. No questions, no hesitation. Your facility in Pasadena. The climate-controlled vault you use for rare botanicals. Can you hold 150 million in inventory? I'll make room, Charles said. I'll call my logistics team now. We'll have trucks there by midnight. Good. I looked down at my phone at the recording that would destroy my son. And Charles, bring Jonathan Pierce tomorrow morning. I need to brief him on everything. Done. When I hung up, I saved 3 copies of the recording one to the cloud one to a USB drive one sent directly to Jonathan's encrypted email. Then I went downstairs to have dinner with my son and his wife. And I smiled. Stealing from my own company sounds absurd. But when the alternative is watching a lifetime of work dump down a drain, absurdity becomes necessity. Thursday night, 11 p.m. Charles pulled his truck into the back entrance of the Vernon warehouse headlights, cutting through the industrial darkness. Behind him, 5 more vehicles idled, not commercial moving trucks, but unmarked vans that could navigate residential streets without drawing attention. I rode in the passenger seat, Emily Watson in the back with her laptop and a briefcase full of blank inventory logs. David Sullivan was waiting at the loading dock door. Mrs. Whitmore, he said quietly. The team is ready. 8 men, all people who owe me favors, all willing to work off books tonight. No phones, no records, no questions. Thank you, David. He unlocked the door. I've disabled the weight sensors and motion alarms. The system will show normal readings until Monday morning. By then, he trailed off. By then it won't matter, I finished. The warehouse stretched before us, climate-controlled rows of premium inventory. But we weren't here for everything. Moving $150 million worth of finished products would take days, require industrial equipment, leave traces impossible to hide. We were smarter than that. Core assets only. Charles had said when we'd planned this, the concentrates, the raw materials, the irreplaceable inventory. What made Whitmore Lux valuable wasn't the bottles on the shelves. Those could be reproduced by any contract manufacturer. It was what went inside them, the proprietary formulas. The rare botanical extracts, the concentrated active ingredients I'd spent 50 years sourcing and perfecting. Those were what we'd come for. David's team moved with military precision. They knew exactly which pallets to take. I'd marked them in the system weeks ago under a false quality audit flag. Concentrate vault section, a radiance renewal base, 24-karat gold suspension in a hyaluronic matrix, 10,000 liters, irreplaceable. Raw materials, Climate Room 3, New Zealand botanical extracts, the ones that bloomed once every 5 years. Charles had paid a fortune to secure our exclusive contract. 300 kilograms. Proprietary compounds, secure storage, silk peptide complex. Concentrate the formula I'd stabilized after 30 years of trial and error. No one else in the world could replicate it. 5,000 liters. The team loaded systematically. Every crate they removed, they replaced with identical containers, filled with colored water, same weight, same dimensions, same label coding. The warehouse sensors would register normal inventory levels. A visual inspection would show full shelves. But the soul of Whitmore Lux that was disappearing into Charles's vans. Emily sat at a workstation, fingers flying across her keyboard. "Inventory logs updated," she murmured. "System shows full stock on all core SKUs. Cross-referenced weight sensors. Matched. Audit trail, clean." I walked the rows checking batch numbers, verifying we weren't leaving anything critical behind. My hands were fully functional now, the strength and precision back in every finger the agent purged from my system after 72 hours. I could feel the cool glass of the sample bottles, the smooth cardboard of the shipping boxes, the texture of the shipping labels. Everything sharp, clear, real again, though the phantom memory of that numbness still haunted me. A reminder of what Derek had tried to steal. "What about the finished products?" one of David's men asked, gesturing to the thousands of retail-ready bottles. "Leave them," I said. "Derek can dump those if he wants. They're just packaging. The formulas inside are commodity grade. We can reproduce them anywhere. What we can't reproduce is in those vans." By 2 a.m., the first van was full. By 3, the second. "Where are we taking them?" the lead driver asked Charles. "Pasadena," Charles said. "My private facility. Climate-controlled vault biometric security. Mrs. Whitmore's inventory will be safer there than Fort Knox." As they pulled away, Emily and I began the final step, verifying the decoy inventory. We'd filled the concentrate containers with water tinted to match the original colors. Added light fragrance to pass a casual smell test. Anyone doing a visual check would see full tanks. But the moment Derek's tanker trucks tried to pump out waste, they discovered they were destroying nothing but tap water and food coloring. By the time we finished, dawn was breaking over the San Gabriel Mountains. David locked the warehouse behind us, the weight sensors reading exactly what they had 12 hours ago. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "I don't know what you're planning, but whatever it is, you have my support." "Thank you, David. Don't come to the board meeting Friday. Take a personal day." He studied me, then nodded. My hands felt strong, capable mine, and so was my legacy. Thursday night. In 18 hours, I would face my betrayers, but first ammunition. I returned to my lab at 4:30 a.m., adrenaline still humming through my veins from the heist. Charles had gone home to sleep. Emily had the fake inventory logs uploaded. David had looped the security footage. The serums were safe in Pasadena. Now came the final piece. I pulled 2 identical crystal vials from the cabinet, the kind Whitmore Lux used for our signature samples. Expensive, elegant, deceptive. Sample A, I mixed distilled water with a basic hyaluronic moisturizer. Nothing fancy. Clean. Harmless. The kind of formulation a first-year chemistry student could create. Sample B, I opened the vial Derek had used to poison me, the one I'd kept as evidence. Dermal sensitivity agent, the same compound that had stolen my sense of touch for a month. I added it to a base of harsh surfactants and synthetic fragrance, the kind of chemicals that would burn on contact. I poured each mixture into the vials, sealed them, and affixed identical labels, Whitmore Lux Signature Serum. One honest, one cruel. Then I tested sample A on the inside of my wrist. The cream absorbed instantly, cool and weightless. Peptides kissed my skin with that familiar tingle I'd spent 30 years perfecting, and I could feel it, every molecule, every sensation crystal clear. I pressed my fingertips together, felt the whirls of my own fingerprints. I could feel everything. 48 hours. The agent had flushed completely from my system. My hands were steady. My mind was sharp. My body was my own again. Derek had tried to take that from me. Tomorrow, I'd show him exactly what I'd gotten back. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. Jonathan Pierce. Legal brief complete. Catherine Sinclair's daughter and George Whitman's family have agreed to provide depositions. They're ready to testify that Victoria Brennan used the same pattern on their parents. We have grounds for a federal case. I typed back, "Excellent. Is Detective Rivera confirmed? He'll be at the board meeting. 2 officers with him. The moment you give the signal, they'll move." Good. Another text came through, this one from Charles. "Serum secure. Inventory safe. Get some rest, Evelyn. You've earned it." I smiled. Rest could wait. At 7 a.m., I walked upstairs to the guest wing. Derek and Amber had spent the night too late to drive back to their Santa Monica condo they'd claimed. More likely, they wanted to keep an eye on me, make sure I didn't back out. Their door was closed, the room silent. Derek's leather briefcase sat on the hallway table, unzipped. I should have walked past, should have let them have their secrets until the meeting, but I didn't. Inside the briefcase, a thick folder, restructuring and brand book. I pulled it out hand steady and opened to the first page. The Whitmore Luxe logo, the elegant script I'd designed 50 years ago, had been crossed out in red marker. Beneath it, a new design, blocky sans serif letters, spelling out Whitmore Fresh Clean. I flipped through the pages, nausea rising with every turn. Product line, multi-surface cleaner. Retail $4.99. Heavy-duty drain opener. Retail $6.99. Disinfectant spray lemon scent. Retail $3.49. And at the bottom of every product label in small print, Clean Scent by Evelyn Whitmore. They were going to turn my legacy 50 years of artistry, luxury, and science into dollar store cleaning supplies. And they were going to use my name to sell it. My hands didn't shake as I pulled out my phone and photographed every page. I sent the images directly to Jonathan with a single line, "Add this to evidence." Then I put the folder back exactly as I'd found it and walked back to my room. At 1 p.m. Friday, I stood in front of my mirror and buttoned the burgundy suit jacket, sharp-tailored, powerful. The color of wine, the color of blood. My phone buzzed. "Charles, car's here." I picked up my handbag, slipped the 2 vials inside, and walked downstairs. Charles stood by the door, car keys in hand. He studied my face for a long moment. "Are you ready, Mrs. Whitmore?" I looked at him, this man who'd stood by me for 40 years, who'd moved $150 million worth of inventory in 4 hours because I'd asked, who'd never once questioned whether I was right. "Let's finish this," I said. And we drove to the board meeting. The Whitmore Luxe boardroom occupied the penthouse level of our Beverly Hills headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city below. A 20-foot marble table gleamed under recessed lighting. I'd chosen this room 50 years ago because it made everyone who entered feel the weight of legacy. Today, it would be a theater of judgment. I stepped through the double doors at exactly 2 o'clock. Burgundy suit, sharp as a blade, spine straight, shoulders back. Every inch of me radiating the authority I'd spent a month pretending to lose. 5 people sat around the table, Victoria Brennan at the center, flanked by 4 beauty-fast executives in matching gray suits. They looked like undertakers. Derek and Amber stood near the windows, too nervous to sit. The moment I walked in, Derek's face went pale. "Mom," his voice cracked slightly, "you look different." I met his eyes, those eyes I'd once thought reflected my own, and felt nothing but cold clarity. "Good morning," I said. "Shall we begin?" Victoria stood, irritation flickering across her perfectly Botoxed face. "Mrs. Whitmore, we've been waiting. Let's not waste time." She slid a leather portfolio across the table. "Sign here, here, and here. Then we can all move forward." I walked to the head of the table, my seat, the one I'd occupied for 5 decades, and set my handbag down with deliberate care. Before I sign anything, I said, "I'm invoking the founder's test." Silence. Derek blinked. "There's no such—" "There is now." I looked directly at Victoria. "You're acquiring a skincare empire built on 50 years of formulation expertise. I want to ensure you understand what you're buying. A simple blind test. Texture analysis. Any competent cosmetic executive should pass easily." Victoria's jaw tightened. "This is ridiculous." "Is it?" I tilted my head. "You're about to pay $45 million for Whitmore Luxe. Surely you can demonstrate basic product knowledge. Unless—" I let the pause hang. "Unless you're afraid you'll fail." One of the gray-suited executives shifted uncomfortably. Another glanced at Victoria, uncertainty creeping into his expression. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "I've been in this industry for 20 years, Mrs. Whitmore. I don't need to prove anything to you. Then it should be easy." I opened my handbag and pulled out 2 crystal vials, the same design I'd seen in Derek's briefcase yesterday morning, each bearing Whitmore Luxe's gold seal. I'd prepared duplicates overnight in my lab, but Victoria didn't need to know that. "These are the samples Derek prepared for today's board presentation," I said smoothly, holding them up. "The new serum line he's been developing. Before I sign anything, I want to ensure my future management understands the products they'll be selling. Derek's face drained of color. His mouth opened, then snapped shut. What could he say that he hadn't prepared samples that would expose him as incompetent in front of Victoria and the board? I watched him struggle, watched the calculation flash across Amber's face. A blind texture test. I continued. I'll apply 2 samples. One is our signature premium formulation. The other is substandard. You identify which is which. If you can't tell the difference between quality and inferior product, how can you possibly run Whitmore Luxe? The room went still. Derek stepped forward. Mom, this isn't necessary. I disagree. I turned to the BeautyFast executives. Gentlemen, wouldn't you want assurance that your CEO and lead consultant understand skincare formulation before they restructure a luxury brand? Victoria stood abruptly. Fine, let's get this over with. Excellent. I unscrewed the first vial, sample A, the clean one. Derek, you'll participate as well. After all, you developed these formulations. Derek looked like he might be sick. I dispensed a small amount of serum onto Derek's palm. Then I turned to Victoria and applied the second vial, sample B, the poisoned one, to her hand. Rub it between your fingers, I instructed. Evaluate the texture absorption rate and finish. Tell me which formula represents Whitmore Luxe quality. Derek rubbed his sample once, twice. His brow furrowed. He had no idea what he was touching. My son, who'd poisoned me for an empire, didn't even understand what that empire made. Silence filled the room like water flooding a sinking ship. Derek stared at his hands as if they belonged to someone else, rubbing the serum between his fingers, again and again, desperate to find an answer that wasn't there. It's smooth, he said finally, voice uncertain. Silky. The absorption is good, very premium. I turned to Victoria, who had barely touched the sample on her palm. She glanced at it dismissively, then met my eyes with that trademark arrogance I'd seen destroy Catherine Sinclair and George Whitman. Obviously premium, she said. I can tell by the viscosity. High-grade hyaluronic base, probably peptide-enriched. This is clearly your signature formulation, Mrs. Whitmore. Interesting, I said. I walked to the wall panel and pressed a button. The screen behind me illuminated, displaying 2 chromatography reports in clinical detail. Sample A, base municipal tap water, Beverly Hills supply. Active ingredients, none additives, generic body lotion. $1.99, CVS Pharmacy. Total production, cost 43 cents per ounce. Sample B, base synthetic oil suspension, active agents Series S, 45, dermal sensitivity blocker, industrial grade, additional compounds, sodium lauryl sulfate, corrosive concentration. Synthetic fragrance allergen level classification toxic. Not suitable for topical application. The room went absolutely still. I turned to Derek, whose face had gone the color of old paper. Mr. Whitmore, I said, my voice carrying across the marble table. You just praised tap water and drugstore lotion as very premium. You identified 43 cents worth of ingredients as worthy of the Whitmore Luxe name. Derek's mouth opened. No sound came out. I shifted my gaze to Victoria. And Ms. Brennan, you declared an industrial toxin, the same compound used to strip paint from metal, as obviously premium, and clearly my signature formulation, without even properly testing it. Victoria's eyes narrowed. This is a setup. I stepped closer to the table. Gave you exactly the test any competent cosmetic executive should pass, asked you to demonstrate basic product knowledge before acquiring a 50-year legacy brand. One of the BeautyFast executives cleared his throat uncomfortably. Another was staring at the screen, horror dawning on his face. Let me try again, Derek said desperately. I was distracted. The word came out sharp as broken glass. So you can guess again. Derek, you've never had the ability to recognize quality. You never learned. You were never interested. I turned back to the screen, pulling up another image, Derek's college transcripts, the chemistry courses he'd failed, the labs he'd skipped. You were too busy at the Bellagio, I said quietly. Too busy at the win. Too busy gambling away money you didn't have to bother learning the science behind the company you wanted to steal. Mom, don't. I held up one hand. You poisoned me for 30 days because you thought I was too old, too weak, too trusting to fight back. But you never once asked yourself if you were competent enough to run what you were taking. Amber had gone pale, gripping the back of Derek's chair. Victoria stood abruptly. This is absurd. Your son made a simple mistake under pressure. It proves nothing about BeautyFast's capabilities or our acquisition offer. Doesn't it? I tilted my head. You've acquired 2 other luxury cosmetic brands in the past 5 years, Ms. Brennan. Bella Essenza, Lumiere Naturelle. Both founders experienced sudden health crises. Both sold their companies for a fraction of their value. Both formulations were immediately discontinued and replaced with... I paused. What did you replace them with exactly? Victoria's jaw clenched. That's proprietary. Let me guess. Cheaper bases. Synthetic compounds, mass-market formulations you could produce for pennies and sell at the same premium price. Until the customers caught on and the brand value collapsed, you have no proof of, oh, but I do. I reached into my handbag and pulled out a USB drive. I have lab analyses of every product BeautyFast has released under acquired brand names, formulation downgrades, cost-cutting, quality degradation. I set the drive on the table, and that's just the beginning. I walked back to the wall panel. Let me show you what real evidence looks like. I pressed play on the audio system. Victoria Brennan's voice filled the boardroom crystal clear. Did she sign, Derek's response, Friday, board meeting, 2 p.m. Mom's completely broken down. Victoria's eyes went wide. The audio kept playing. If you're still here, leave a comment and let me know you're with me. And if you were in my place after everything that's just been revealed, would you stay silent or would you push the truth all the way to the end? Share your thoughts below. Please note the next part of this story includes some dramatized elements for storytelling and educational purposes and may not be entirely factual. If this content isn't for you, you're welcome to stop watching here. The recording played. With each word, I watched their faces drain of blood. First came the restaurant footage audio pulled from the Beverly Hills Hotel's security system. Lily had given me access. The sound quality was pristine. Amber's voice sharp and clear. Now while she's in the restroom, quick! The clink of glass, liquid pouring, a pause. Perfect. 1 more week and she'll be completely helpless. Derek's laugh, low, cruel, mocking. Then his voice, did you see her hands shaking when she tried to cut her steak, pathetic? Amber again. The senile old woman thinks it's just age. She has no idea we've been dosing her for a month. More laughter, both of them. My son and his wife celebrating my deterioration over wine and bread. Derek shot to his feet. That's illegal recording. You can't. Security camera footage from a public establishment, I said calmly. Provided voluntarily by hotel management. Perfectly legal. But the audio from your house, Amber started. All cameras and recording devices in my estate are legally installed as part of a comprehensive security system, I interrupted. And surveillance notices are clearly stated in the employment contracts and entry agreements everyone who works for me has signed, including family members granted residential access. I pulled a document from my folder. This is the security disclosure you both signed when you moved into the guest wing last year. Page 3, paragraph 2. Resident acknowledges that audio and video surveillance may be active in common areas for security purposes. Amber's face went white. I pressed another button. The second recording began the phone call from my garden terrace. Derek's voice, Victoria's voice, all of them thinking they were safe. Derek, Friday, board meeting, 2 p.m. Mom's completely broken down. She couldn't even hold a pen steady today. Victoria and the inventory. Derek handled tanker truck's role in Friday night right after the meeting. We'll dump it all $150 million worth. One of the BeautyFast executives made a strangled sound. Amber's voice pleased and greedy. Thank God. We need cash flow now. The Monaco Villa deposit alone is $5 million. Victoria cold and clinical. And your husband's gambling debts. $3.7 million, wasn't it, Derek? Derek. Once we get the $45 million payout from Beauty Fast, that's pocket change. The boardroom had gone absolutely silent, not even breathing. Victoria, just make sure she signs, no delays, no second thoughts. Derek, she'll sign, she's got no fight left. The recording ended. I looked at the Beauty Fast executives. Two of them were staring at Victoria with expressions of pure betrayal. One had pulled out his phone, probably texting the legal department. The fourth looked ready to be sick. These recordings, I said quietly, were made on my private property in areas where surveillance was disclosed and legally authorized. They will hold up in any court. Victoria stood so fast her chair tipped backward. This is a setup you manipulated. I manipulated nothing. My voice cut through hers like a scalpel. You orchestrated a systematic poisoning over 30 days. Your partners planned to destroy $150 million in premium inventory. You conspired to defraud shareholders and flee the country. You have no proof of... I have chromatography reports identifying the Series S 45 dermal sensitivity blocker in my system. I pulled a folder from my bag. I have the vitamin bottle Derek gave me with your company's logo hidden under a fake label. I have bank records showing Derek's gambling debts. I have emails between you and Derek discussing accelerating the timeline. I set the folder on the table and looked directly at Victoria. And I have testimony from the families of Catherine Sinclair and George Whitman. Victoria went absolutely still. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might collapse. How did you know? Bella Essenza, I said. 2019. Catherine Sinclair, 58 years old, sudden tremors and loss of motor control. Sold her $90 million company to you for $8 million. Dead 6 months later. I took a step closer. Lumiere Naturelle, 2021, George Whitman, 62, cognitive decline and memory loss. Sold for $15 million. Still alive, still fighting. Victoria's hands shook. You have a pattern, Ms. Brennan, and I'm victim number 3, except I didn't die, and I didn't sell. I know everything! I said, my voice cold enough to frost the windows. You've done this twice before. 2 companies destroyed. 1 woman dead. I'm victim number 3, but I'm still alive. And I will end your reign. Victoria's hands gripped the edge of the table. You're bluffing. There's no proof connecting me to... Catherine Sinclair's daughter is prepared to testify, I said. So is George Whitman's son. They're coming forward with medical records, timeline documentation, and testimony about your company's acquisition tactics. 2 founders, same pattern, same outcome. Victoria's face had gone gray. And they're not alone, I continued. I've contacted 3 other luxury cosmetic founders your company approached in the past year. All of them reported sudden health issues after meeting with Beauty Fast representatives. All of them declined your acquisition offers. Interesting coincidence, don't you think? What? A figure stood from the corner of the room, a man I deliberately positioned in shadow when the meeting began. Ms. Brennan, Jonathan Pierce said, stepping into the light. I'm Jonathan Pierce, attorney for Whitmore Lux. We have documented evidence linking you to predatory acquisition practices across multiple jurisdictions. Federal investigators are currently reviewing files on Bella Essenza and Lumiere Naturelle. This meeting is being recorded for legal proceedings. The Beauty Fast executives erupted. One stood shouting at Victoria. Another was already on his phone. The third looked ready to sprint from the room. Victoria whirled on them. Sit down. This is a setup she's manipulating. The only manipulation, one I said quietly, was yours. Derek moved toward me, hands outstretched, voice desperate. Mom, please, we can settle this. Work something out. I'll pay you back. I'll... Settle what? I turned to him. You wanted my serums, Derek, the $150 million worth of formulations you planned to dump in tanker trucks Friday night. His face went pale. They're gone. What? Amber's voice came out strangled. Every bottle, I said. Every formula, every rare botanical extract Charles sourced over 40 years. Moved 3 nights ago while you 2 slept in my guest room. Derek staggered backward. You're lying! The inventory logs are fake, I said. Emily Watson is very good with spreadsheets. What's actually in the Vernon warehouse right now: tap water, food coloring, light fragrance, about $4,000 worth of materials arranged to look like $150 million in premium inventory. Amber grabbed Derek's arm. "She's bluffing. She has to be." "Try me," I said. "Send your tanker trucks tonight. Pump out the waste. See what you get. See how BeautyFast's investors react when they realize they paid $45 million for colored water." Victoria finally found her voice. You can't do this. Those formulations are company assets. You signed non-disposal agreements. You're in breach of—" "I signed nothing," I said. "I'm still CEO. Those formulations are mine to move as I see fit, and I saw fit to protect them from thieves." I pulled one more folder from my bag, the one I'd photographed at 7 a.m. this morning. "This," I said, spreading the pages across the table, "is your rebrand proposal. Whitmore Luxe transformed into Whitmore Fresh Clean. Multi-surface cleaner, $4.99. Heavy-duty drain opener, $6.99. My 50-year legacy turned into dollar store garbage with my name slapped on it." The BeautyFast executives stared at the pages in horror. "You were going to gut everything I built," I said, looking at Derek. "Destroy my formulations, sell my name to pedal industrial cleaners, and you thought I'd just let you—" Derek's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "You wanted an empire," I said, "but you never understood what made it valuable. You never learned the science. You never respected the craft. You just saw dollar signs and thought you could fake your way through." Victoria stood her chair clattering backward. "This meeting is over. BeautyFast is withdrawing our offer." "Too late," Jonathan said. The boardroom doors burst open. Detective James Rivera stepped through the boardroom doors flanked by 2 uniformed officers. His badge gleamed under the recessed lighting. His expression was granite. "Victoria Brennan, Derek Whitmore, Amber Whitmore." His voice carried across the marble table. "You're all under arrest." The room froze. Rivera pulled a folded document from his jacket. "Derek Whitmore, you're charged with attempted murder conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse under California Penal Code Section 368. Derek's face went white. "Amber Whitmore, you're charged with attempted murder as a felony accomplice, conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse." Amber shot to her feet. "This is insane. You can't prove—" "We received an arrest warrant from Judge Henderson this morning," Rivera said calmly, "immediately after Mrs. Whitmore provided medical evidence of poisoning blood samples containing a Series S45 dermal sensitivity blocker, along with the source vitamin capsules bearing your fingerprints, Mrs. Whitmore." He held up an evidence bag containing Derek's vitamin bottle. "We have video footage from the Beverly Hills Hotel showing you directing the poisoning. We have audio recordings made on private property with proper legal disclosure and the owner's consent. We have chromatography reports, we have the poison source, and we have Mrs. Whitmore's physician-documented symptoms correlating exactly with S45 exposure." Amber's mouth snapped shut. Rivera turned to Victoria. "Victoria Brennan, you're charged with criminal conspiracy and racketeering under the RICO Act, running a criminal enterprise through a pattern of predatory acquisitions." He paused. "You're also being summoned for questioning regarding the death of Catherine Sinclair in 2019. Victoria's face drained of all color. "These audio recordings," Rivera continued gesturing to the screen, "will serve as corroborating evidence for the conspiracy to commit murder charges. Additionally, we've been investigating BeautyFast Industries for the past 3 months based on complaints from the Sinclair and Whitman families. We already had warrants for your financial records and business communications. Mrs. Whitmore's evidence corroborated our existing investigation." 2 of the BeautyFast executives had already stood and moved toward the door, distancing themselves as fast as possible. "Federal prosecutors are waiting downstairs," Rivera said. "FBI agents are currently executing search warrants at BeautyFast headquarters, your residence, and your offshore accounts. We've also frozen the escrow account containing the $45 million acquisition payment. The money won't be released until the fraud investigation concludes. Additionally, we've filed for asset seizure of BeautyFast Industries under RICO provisions." He looked directly at Derek. That Monaco villa deposit the $3.7 million to cover your gambling debts. None of that money is coming. You can cooperate now or you can make this harder. Your choice. The first officer approached Derek with handcuffs. Derek backed away, hands raised. Wait, there's been a misunderstanding. We can talk about this. Turn around, Mr. Whitmore. The cuffs clicked around Derek's wrists, then Amber's, then Victoria's. The sound echoed in the silent boardroom. Derek twisted toward me, his face contorted with desperation. Mom, please, I'm your son. You can't just... I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the man who'd brought me vitamins every morning with a kiss on the cheek, who'd asked about my day while knowing exactly how the poison was progressing, who'd laughed with his wife about my trembling hands. I don't have a son, I said quietly. His eyes widened. I had one once, I continued. He died the moment he poured poison into his mother's glass. Mom, His voice cracked. I'm sorry, I was desperate. The debts, the pressure, I didn't know what else to... You weren't desperate, Derek. My voice came out colder than I'd intended, colder than I'd known I could be. You were greedy. There's a difference. Please, you had a choice, I said. You could have come to me, told me about the gambling, asked for help. Instead, you chose to poison me, to steal from me, to mock me while I suffered. Tears streamed down his face. I'll fix this. I'll pay you back. Officer, I said to Rivera, please remove them. Amber erupted. You'll regret this. We'll sue. We'll appeal. You haven't won anything. I turned to the window, presenting my back to all three of them. The officers led them toward the door. Amber's screams faded down the hallway. Victoria walked in silence, her head high, even in handcuffs. Derek looked back, once his face desperate, searching mine for something, forgiveness maybe, mercy. I didn't turn around. The door closed. The boardroom fell silent. The beauty-fast executives had vanished. Jonathan Pierce was gathering his files. The marble table gleamed empty in the afternoon light. I felt Charles's hand on my shoulder. You did it, he said quietly. I nodded. My hands fully healed, fully mine again, rested on the windowsill. I could feel the cool glass beneath my palms, could feel the texture of my suit jacket, could feel everything. But I don't feel victorious, I said. Not yet. Outside, I watched the police cars pull away 3 figures in the back seats. My son, my company, my legacy. I'd saved 2 of those things. And I'd lost the one I'd never thought I'd have to choose. 6 months can feel like a lifetime when you're rebuilding from ashes. The media storm hit within hours. Beauty Air exposes son's murder plot. Cosmetics dynasty shattered by betrayal. Mother sends son to prison for attempted poisoning. My face burgundy suit calm expression was everywhere. Jonathan Pierce called with updates as the legal machinery ground forward. Derek, 12 years in federal prison. Attempted murder conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse. No parole eligibility for 8 years. Amber, 10 years federal. Attempted murder as an accomplice conspiracy. She'd tried to claim ignorance. The video footage said otherwise. Victoria Brennan, 25 years with an ongoing murder investigation into Catherine Sinclair's death. BeautyFast Incorporated. Had collapsed within weeks, bankrupt assets seized, shareholders filing lawsuits. The empire she'd built on stolen legacies had crumbled to dust. Catherine Sinclair's daughter sent me a handwritten note. You got justice for my mother when I couldn't. Thank you. George Whitman's son called to say his father was coming home from the care facility, clearer-minded than he'd been in years. Whitmore Lux. Stock climbed 300%. Investors called it the Vindication Rally. Reporters wanted interviews. I declined them all. My work will speak, I told Jonathan. And it did. I was alone in my Malibu house when the doorbell rang on a Tuesday afternoon. The ocean stretched endless beyond my window's waves, rolling in their ancient rhythm. Lily Foster stood on my doorstep, twisting her hands nervously. Mrs. Whitmore, she said, I came to see if you're okay. I invited her in, made tea. We sat on the terrace overlooking the Pacific, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. I wanted to thank you, Lily said finally, for what you did that night, for trusting me. You saved my life, I said simply. No. She shook her head. You saved your own life. I just showed you the door. We talked for hours about her dreams of working in the beauty industry, about the culinary school scholarship she'd been saving for, about how she'd always loved the science of skincare, but never thought someone like her could make it a career. Would you like to learn? I asked. Truly learn, become my apprentice. Her eyes went wide. You mean work for you? I mean become my successor, I said, if you're willing. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Yes, God, yes. 6 months later, we stood side by side in my lab. Lily held a pipette steady, adding 3 drops of chamomile extract to the base formula. Her hands, young, strong, certain, moved with the confidence of someone who'd found her calling. She tested the serum on her wrist, rubbing it between her fingers the way I'd taught her. It's like silk and air, she said slowly, with a hint of cool water. I smiled. Perfect. You're learning the language. The new line was called Renewal, formulated for scars the kind that mark skin and the kind that mark souls. Chamomile for soothing, Centella asiatica for regeneration, vitamin E for healing. It doesn't erase scars, I told Lily. It helps skin regenerate, stronger than before. Like you, she said quietly. I pulled the old power of attorney from my desk drawer, still water-stained from the day I'd accidentally knocked over that crystal decanter. I held it over the ashtray and struck a match. Some things must burn, I said, so new things can grow. We watched the paper curl and blacken. Smoke rose, carrying away everything Derek had tried to steal. I looked out at the ocean. Lily stood beside me, not as an employee, but as something more. Family isn't about blood, Lily, I said. It's about who stands beside you when the world collapses. Then I'm honored to be your family. We returned to the lab table. The renewal serum caught the afternoon light, golden and shimmering with promise. Now, I said, let's perfect this formula. Customers are waiting. Lily nodded and reached for her notes. I lost a son, but I gained something more precious, a legacy built on choice, not obligation, on love, not blood. The serums could wait, but this moment, this peace, I wanted to hold a little longer, because this was victory, not revenge, renewal. Looking back at my journey through this family drama stories, I learned that greed destroys faster than any poison. Don't be like my son Derek. Don't let money blind you to what truly matters. God gave us family to love, not to exploit. When I prayed in my darkest hours, God reminded me that justice isn't revenge, it's restoration. This grandma stories taught me 3 truths. First, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, investigate. God blessed me with a sharp mind. I used it to save myself. Second, family is choice, not blood. Lily became my true daughter, not through birth, but through loyalty. These family drama stories prove that chosen family often stands stronger than biological ties. Third, legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's who carries it forward. I built Whitmore Luxe for 50 years, but Lily will build it for the next 50. That's God's grace renewal after betrayal. My advice, if you face betrayal in your own grandma stories, don't ignore the signs. Document everything. Seek legal help. Protect what you've built. But most importantly, forgive yourself for trusting the wrong people. God forgives us. We must forgive ourselves. I sent my son to prison. It broke my heart. But some grandma stories end with hard choices that honor truth over comfort. Would I do it again? Yes, because justice protects future victims. These family drama stories aren't just about revenge, they're about standing up when the world expects you to stay silent. They're about rebuilding when everything collapses. Could you make the hard choice I made? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about resilience, betrayal, and second chances. Final note. This content contains dramatized storytelling elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the lessons and messages are entirely valuable. If this style isn't for you, that's okay. Please seek content that better suits your needs.